Well, apparently I am. Apparently I'm talking now. It was only when you said I'm muted that I went and checked my microphone settings for Streamlabs. I'm using Streamlabs OBS for my streaming here. Uh Yep, yes I sure am. And it did not have me muted. But I did notice as soon as you said that I seemed to be muted that I wasn't getting a microphone feed. It wasn't doing anything. It was just completely blank. Yeah, hey Eldritch. Hey. I've actually been talking this entire time and did not know that the microphone was not working. So, you know what I did here? I simply went to the settings for the microphone in Streamlabs and set it to the same thing it already was before and then had it save. And now it works. I didn't change a single setting. I just resaved the existing settings and suddenly it works. Okay, as I was actually saying there, I was not aware that Rogue Tech was going to do this huge damn download from Treadnought 113 to 114.3, and it seems to be doing like a 32 gigabyte download. I know for a fact that people could hear me on my last stream, which was yesterday. So I don't know what the hell changed with Streamlabs. I don't know why it just dropped out like that. Streamlabs did not update. So, what's been going on this entire time is that I was telling the tale of how Roy Calbeck here became a canon part of the Battletech game universe. And how that was settled by the courts. Yeah, it works now, but I have this long, silent thing that's going on, and I'm stuck with this. I have no idea how long this download's going to be. I was actually just about to sign off. No, Windows updated a few days ago, but the thing is, I haven't changed any of my Windows microphone settings. Not at all. The only settings that I have touched between when I was muted, or I shouldn't even say muted, but dead, and operating, is I went into Streamlabs, opened up the settings for the microphone, and resaved them as is. So it's not a Windows update, or it still wouldn't be working. It is literally Streamlabs somehow forgetting that the microphone is live, and it was not even muted. See, that right there was me turning on the mute button. So, I don't know. I don't know if you guys want me to retell the story that I just got done telling, because it's a long one, and I was doing it to try and fill time while this was downloading. No, I did not. I did not plug and unplug the microphone. Okay, literally the only thing that I did was I went into Streamlabs OBS settings to my microphone settings, opened the settings, saved them, and that was it. And it started working. No, I do not plug or unplug each stream. And yesterday it was working fine, today it wasn't. Mind you, this is not the first time that something like that has happened. It's just, I don't know what it is. I guess I have to watch like a hawk to make sure that it's even streaming. I don't know. So do you guys want me to retell the story or what? I am hoping that this is not going to be a full 32 gig download. Because as you can see, it's only past the first gig. I'm going to refill my coffee one way or the other. I'll be right back. I don't want to bore you guys. I don't want to have a stream going when there's absolutely nothing going on or when it's dead air like it just was. But, if you guys are cool with it, I'll just refill and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm gonna read down. I'm gonna read down. I'm going to down a bottle of water here. Make it a solo podcast. Well, the short of it is that this is drama that actually goes back 20 years in the Battletech community. More than 20 years, technically. And I wouldn't be saying a damn thing except somebody recently gave me new, fresh grief over this. So I went ahead and wrote up the entire story as condensed as I could make it. And still wound up being a fairly long article, and I put it up on Minds. Now, over on Minds, I am Calbeck, just Calbeck. And yes, I have my own account there, yada, yada, yada. And incidentally, I have not linked Minds to Twitch or anything like that. I prefer, when it comes to streaming services, that I not link my social media, because I'll talk about anything on social media. I'll talk about politics, I'll talk about social issues, I'll talk about, just random opinions or jokes or whatever. And these days, streaming services like to say, we disagree with your take on whatever subject, so we're banning you now. So, hey, if somebody wants to do that, they can hunt down my stuff and then report it. Good luck to them. Let me go ahead and minimize that. So, this is the story. This is a story all about how... This is the story of how an anthropomorphic unicorn became canon to Battletech, and technically speaking still is. Now, in many ways, I've led a fairly strange life. One of the strangest incidents led to this anthropomorphic unicorn becoming part of standing Battletech canon for several years, and in fact, he's still part of the intellectual property, and I still own the relevant copyrights. You see, back during the 91 Gulf War, I wound up becoming pen pals with Battletech co-creator Sam Lewis. And he had actually intercepted a fan letter I had written to novelist Mike Stackpole, probably one of the best authors that Battletech ever had. And since Sam had been in the Armored Cavalry during his own service, and I was in the Armored Cavalry when I was in the Gulf, we began talking shop. And he was so approachable. I decided to put some of my fan theories into a novel outline. I sent it off as a proposal to FASA, and I pretty much expected it to be rejected, but, I kind of wanted to get it out of my system. This novel's working title was Last Vestiges, and it was set at the end of the clan invasion, would have had the Eridani Light Horse breaking contract with House Davion in order to reorganize the Star League Defense Forces under the auspices of Comstar. Because besides the Eridani Light Horse, there were about another 5 regiments worth of mercenaries out there that all traced their history back to SLDF units and still considered their traditions important. So you would have had this 8-regiment unit for the SLDF working under Comstar after the clan invasion. And if you remember your Battletech history, that was when it went back to being a secular organization. It was no longer religious fanatics. You had Precentor Marshal Anastasius Vogt in charge. So the Eridani Light Horses, hey, they're no longer religious nuts. We can work with these people. We want to counterattack the clans because they claim to be the descendants of the SLDF, and there's no such thing. SLDF is an organization, not a bloodline. And you people don't follow any of our traditions, so screw you. So, if this book had been published, Battletech, the property would have gone in a very different direction. Now, Sam once again intercepted my letter with this proposal, and he chose to evaluate it himself. His response was that he'd love to go with it, but FASA's book publisher, which if I recall correctly at the time was Tor, they hated first-time authors, and if it was Tor, they still do. Therefore, he said I should submit gaming supplements for Battletech, and he specifically asked for an Eridani Light Horse scenario pack. He wanted this to be based on the preceding scenario pack for McCarran's Armored Cavalry. Now, this way, he said, I would no longer be a first-time author, and I would be able to show my ability to complete a project in a timely manner. How far along are we? Okay. So, 3 years later, having gone through 3 different Battletech line editors, each of which kept insisting on minor changes without ever rejecting the damn thing, taking twice as long to respond to a resubmitted rewrite as fast as internal rules even allowed for, the company asserted that the ELH scenario pack was, quote, no longer timely, unquote. They had eaten up 2 entire production cycles with dithering. At the time, a production cycle from when you had a proposal through to its actual publication was supposed to be 18 months, and they had taken 3 full years. Now, thing is, I wasn't necessarily treated better or worse than a lot of Battletech authors in that regard. FASA was just really disorganized. To the extent that Mike Stackpole, who I mentioned earlier, eventually wrote an article saying why he would never write another Battletech novel for FASA again. And it boiled down to they were disorganized, to the point that they owed him $100,000 in back royalties. And this was kind of a funny thing when he went to them and said, hey, I'm missing all my royalties from the Eastern European versions of the books that we've published. My contract says I'm supposed to get X. They immediately sicked the lawyers on him. The first people he talked to were their lawyers. And then they sat down and went, we should probably have the accountants look at this. And the accountants came back and said, yeah, we owe him 6 figures. Mike never said where in the 6-figure range that was, so it's at least $100,000. And this is their best top-performing author. So you can imagine how everybody else got treated. Mike even said, other authors are not getting paid at all, so just, if you have to, forego payments to me to make sure that they get paid, but get people paid. That's how bad FASA was. This kind of killed my dream of writing science fiction, because if you've got the vice president of a company asking you to create gaming material for their property, and their middle management is just like, we'll get around to it when, it's too late. Yeah, the whole sci-fi business just looked like a total crapshoot. So I just refocused on my IT career and left it behind. However, my contract with them said explicitly that if they did not cut me a contract for publication, I owned all rights to my original content. So I just sighed and posted the final version of the history section from the scenario pack to my personal Battletech fan site and figured that would be that. Honestly, that really should have been it. If they hadn't, if they hadn't continued screwing around, that would have been the end of it. But in 2001, the Eridani Light Horse history that I'd created appeared on the official Battletech website as canon material. It had been incorporated into an official timeline, distinctly separate from the fan fiction and fan art sections of the website. In fact, the only people who could write anything to the section where my work appeared were either the company or its authorized affiliates. Nobody else had access. Oh, and there was no accreditation. 0 accreditation. They simply took my work, and it was later admitted during the court case that followed that my work had been copy-pasted. Copy-pasted was the term that the guy actually used. And just in case anybody is wondering where that allegation came from of copy-pasting, it was Jason Knight. Yes, I will name the son of a bitch. Jason Knight tried to write a long letter attacking me, claiming I was a plagiarist for using any material from the original, 1986 Mercenaries Handbook, which contained the original Eridani Light Horse history. And my version was the first version of that history to be created after 1986. So yes, I'm working from the original material, and the first two paragraphs were identical because honestly I couldn't figure out how to rewrite them. They were so concise and perfect that anything else I did would be a disservice. But the rest of the 7-page document that was the revised Aerodynamic Light Horse history was different. So anybody reading past these first two paragraphs would realize this is not the original work. I had added a lot of material. I had added in stuff like what the Aerodynamic Light Horse had been doing during the Ronin Wars. What about the Gunslinger program? What was their involvement in it? I put in a reference to a friend of mine, a fellow cartoonist by name of Kyle Sessions. So I created the character of Major Kyle Sessions, piloting a Wyvern to like 25 victories and 1 draw during the Ronin Wars. And why a Wyvern? Because Kyle Sessions drew himself as a Wyvern in cartoon amateur press association zines that I was involved in back around that time. So I'm literally putting another character's furry fursona into BattleTech. It wasn't just mine, it was somebody else's too, but I'm not saying this guy's a furry. I'm just using his name, giving him a rank, and then alluding to his fursona by making it the name of his mech. Which, the SLDF did have Wyvern battle mechs. That was a real thing. So, well, real in terms of the game universe. So, it's me referencing a friend. There you go. In joke, in reference. And this was all published. They had no problem with it. They just dragged it on over as like complete with the in-jokes. These are basically markers that I left in, putting my imprint on this. I go ahead and contact them and said, I still by contract hold copyrights to this. And they were shocked and surprised, and then they politely asked if they could keep using it. I'm going to let that sink in for a moment. They politely asked if they could keep using the work that they had plagiarized. And they even said at the time, this is an accident. We didn't realize it was your work. We thought this was the original stuff. I'm like, well, you wouldn't have read past the first 2 paragraphs if that were the case. But okay, you want to keep using my work. What you have there is a working draft. Because FASA, having fucked up the original project, we never went to full publication, so this is not a polished version. It had typos in it, it had incomplete sections, so I went ahead and created a complete, polished version, and this was about twice as long at 14 pages. It was basically a full-blown short story. And they put it up, no complaints whatsoever, and they gave me full accreditation. I was in the site's formal list of credits. And at this point, everyone's happy, right? I didn't ask for money. I just wanted recognition. I got it. They got a bunch of fresh new content. Topics that the topics I had in here had never been included in before for the Aerodynamic Light Horse. Fans loved it. My work had already been circulating via copy paste to other BattleTech fan sites, and apparently that's how the official site found out about it, from the other fan sites. And now they had an even better version, and that likewise made the rounds. So people liked my work. Now, of course, during all of this, FASA had gone bankrupt in like 2000. And the rights to BattleTech bobbled around for a bit. They landed in the lap of WizKids, which also at that point owned ClassicBattleTech.com, which was the website all this was happening on. And still, nobody had any problems with any of this. Nobody at WizKids said, "Hey, who's this Calbeck guy?" And what's this version of the Aerodynamic Light Horse history doing here? And we've never cut a contract with this guy. Why is this published as official material? Oh my God! Nobody did that. I was even in the forums, the public forums on the site, and fans of my work would talk about it, and I talked with them about it, just back and forth. And eventually people started asking me, hey, when are you going to update this? Because, BattleTech had continued the timeline forward, new events were going forward, and they kind of wanted me to update the Aeronautic Light Horse history to include things that they'd been involved in, and hey, maybe other things are going on. So I start discussing this. We start batting it around with other people in the forums. And I'll get to that in a minute. But you see, about 2003 or so, I think, Topps, yes, the bubblegum baseball card company, Topps, bought WizKids. And I don't know why people don't seem to realize that they never gave a shit about BattleTech. They never cared about Shadowrun. They've never produced anything creative for any of these properties that they bought when they bought WizKids. And, I mean, it's to the point where I can legitimately claim I have produced more for the BattleTech property than Topps did. All Topps did was that they licensed these things out to other people and other companies who actually created stuff with it. They themselves never gave a damn. So you might ask, why did they buy WizKids in the first place? Because they wanted the ClickTech technology. You see, WizKids had bought out a company that had a game called Mage Knight. Mage Knight was collectible figurines that had stats baked into the figurines. And you would click a little thing on the side, and it would show the change in stats as you played the game. So basically, you have hard-coded stats that nonetheless change as play progresses. And this really apparently got the attention of Topps because they wanted this for, and I shit you not, Major League Baseball. That's right. They bought out WizKids because Topps owns the merchandising rights for Major League Baseball. And they wanted to create a game using ClickTech technology where, for example, you would get a figurine of Cal Ripken, right? And it would have his stats. Okay, here's how he's pitching in the first inning, and we're on to the third inning. Click, see how his stats have changed. We're on the seventh inning. Click how the stats changed. Fantasy baseball is all about stats. And if you're able to sell like a $10 figurine of a single baseball player, and somebody needs how many players to make up a full baseball team? You're talking buku dinero. Well, apparently this didn't go over too well because they only had one, maybe two. I know they had one. I am not sure if they had a second season of this. And then they just stopped doing it. And at this point, they're basically stuck with WizKids, right? They haven't done anything else with it. They don't care about it. So, like, they sold all the collectible card games that the company owned at the time. They sold it to a collectible card company on the Eastern Seaboard, along with the brand name for WizKids and the logo. But not all the properties. Like, they retained they retained BattleTech and Shadowrun apparently because of their connections and involvement with ClickTech. They didn't want to even potentially danger any claims to ClickTech technology. Because after all, that would impinge on, maybe in some way on their Major League Baseball franchise because they had used it to do Major League Baseball stuff. Sports! If you ever wondered why sports and tabletop gaming really shouldn't integrate with each other, this is probably a very good reason why. So anyways, like I said before, I had been bouncing around ideas with members of the community on ClassicBattletech.com. Hey, we're looking at doing an update for the Aeronautic Light Horse history. All these other mercenary units are getting warships, like even Cranston Snords Irregulars that originally conceived as a semi-joke unit. Oh, they found Canterlot Command and it had a warship docked, so they got their own warship now. Well, what about the Eridani? Did they ever have warships? Because they had to be an independent unit during the Star League era. And because of that, they would have had to have supported their own actions on various planets. So what would their escort be like? Well, probably a heavy cruiser and a destroyer. Let's make that an Aegis heavy cruiser. And somebody's like, well, why not a Sovietsky Soyuz cruiser? Because it's got heavier firepower. Like, well, because the Aegis is better suited for long-range operations and extended campaigns, and it's more flexible. And so we're into these kinds of discussions. And then all my stuff disappears. That first one was kind of bad. There we go. All my stuff just disappears from the site. It's all gone. My accreditation disappears from the credits section, which was separate. Moderators who had been engaged in these discussions with me erased their previous post and began saying that they had no idea who I was. They had never heard of my work, and they started trashing my reputation, claiming, oh, here's this guy who claims this stuff's been published. Where's it published? Where's it published, Calbeck? We don't see it anywhere. What are you, up-jumped fan author? Putting on airs. And when I defended myself, I was banned. Just banned right off of ClassicBattleTech.com. Oh, hey there, Hal Vega. I know that's Hal Vega jumping in. I don't even have to look. Oh, you lost internet connection for 2 minutes while listening intently. Which part did you miss, and do you want me to repeat it? Oh. Okay, I was probably talking about what Topps was doing with by buying out WizKids in the first place. The short version of it is that the only thing they gave a damn about was the click technology. Oh, I will be. I will be. Okay. As a matter of fact, all of these, I do in fact cross-post to YouTube. I have an account that should come up as Unicorn Brigade Archives. And right now YouTube is linked in. Yeah. Topps specifically bought ClickTech for baseball. That's all they cared about. They had the Major League Baseball franchise. So yeah, if you want to go ahead and watch it, once this is all over, it should automatically upload to YouTube. If you want to look up Unicorn Brigade, it'll be like the first thing, Unicorn Brigade Archives. Anyways, getting back to the story proper. So, all of my stuff just disappeared from the website. All these people started trash-talking me. The mods for the website are claiming that they had never heard of me, and my work had never been canon, and I had never been legitimized, and when I defended myself, they just banned me. Now, it turns out that nobody had told Topps that when they bought, quote, the entire Battletech property along with WizKids, I still owned my copyrights relative to my contributions. And rather than contact me to manage some sort of arrangement, they just made the decision to unperson me and delegitimize my work. Which kind of slots in with, all these mods just flat out going from, over the course of 48 hours, this is a great idea. We'd love to work with you on this. This sounds cool. Why don't you use the Sovietsky Soyuz cruiser for the Eridani Light Horse warship lineup? Why don't you... Oh, this guy doesn't exist. Nope, get rid of him. Nope. Totally not legit. No. So when I contacted them directly, I was told in no uncertain terms the only way they would even discuss the matter was via litigation. They didn't want to talk. They didn't want to work out an arrangement. They didn't even want to respond to letters. I finally got a notation back where they were saying, no, we don't care. You either sue us or shut up or go away. Whatever. So I sued them. Now, my original complaint before the Ninth Circuit Court was simply I wanted my contributions and my copyrights in those to be affirmed. That everybody I've ever talked to feels that this was reasonable. Mainly because it meant that I wouldn't get any money or control in the rest of the property, I guess. It's like, okay, if you're just saying that you want to be recognized as a contributing author, okay, fine. I didn't get a lot of shit for that. At least not amongst the people who were even willing to listen. But during the discovery phase of the trial, evidence came to light suggesting I could technically claim co-ownership in Battletech as a whole. Because here's the thing, if you're a co-author in a property and you still own your rights to your contributions, and there is no agreement for how to split up the rights are equally co-owned by default. Doesn't matter how much you put into it, doesn't matter what extent your material is, if you're a co-owner in the property and there's no agreement on division, which, yeah, Top says, sue us. We're not going to talk to you at all. Just sue us. Okay. By default, we have no division arrangement. You don't want to discuss splitting, so screw you guys, I'm going for the brass ring. In the end, this was probably a mistake because it wound up tainting the lawsuit. The lawsuit did ultimately decide I am, in fact, a contributing author to Battletech. And, in fact, to even have the test for co-authorship, you have to show that you are a contributing author. If you're not a contributing author, they don't even apply the test. There's no point to it. Because the test has 3 prongs. One, for example, is, does the contribution, or excuse me, does the property as a whole turn on the contribution? Another one is there substantial audience approval for this contribution? So it's like, well, if it's not part of the property, then there is no audience for it. Therefore, you would never get to this point. So even by applying the test, the courts were saying, yes, he's a contributing author. So basically, if I had not put in the claim for co-ownership, if I had not gone for the brass ring, they would, it would have just been open and shut. They would have just said, yes, you're a contributing author. Boom, there you go. You got your accreditation. Tops, you shut up. Stop smearing him. Maybe write an apology letter and go away. That would have been it. In point of fact, Tops actually tried to have the amendment motion for co-ownership dismissed. They tried to have the whole thing dismissed on that point, and the judge said, no, there's too much evidence here that he has a claim. You're going to have to argue on the merits. So in the end, I won recognition of my copyrights and contributions, but they were found not to rise to the level of co-ownership in Battletech as a whole. So despite winning on the original claim, I lost the case itself. And usually when people bash me, they say, you lost the case. Yeah, because of I don't care. You lost the case, so you're not a Battletech author. The case says that I am. No, you're not, because you lost the case. On co-ownership, don't care. That's usually how the argument goes. Now, the thing is, because Top's loyalists were still bashing me along these lines and saying, he lost the case. This guy was never a Battletech author. And I would correct them and say, no, here's what the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals actually said. And they would argue with me, no. Tops didn't like my defending myself, so they called me up, and their lawyer said, cease and desist. You must cease and desist asserting your rights to Battletech. You do not have rights. We believe that you have no claim whatsoever. You lost the case. And I directed their chief of counsel to reread what the appeals court had said. And he went silent. And after a while, came back and said they were dropping the cease and desist and then hung up. That was it. You would think that would be it. But of course, it's not like they went to the people bashing me and said, shut up. That kept on going. So over all of these years, a lot of people have continued, on and off, not very often, but when it comes up, I usually get grief about it. And it's usually Uber fans who are angry that a Battletech author actually stands up for their copyrights. I've actually been told to my face, quote, much better authors than you have been treated much worse. Yeah? And? How is that an argument? It's true. I mean, as I mentioned before, Mike Stackpole got shorted like $100,000. At least $100,000. And, yeah, soulless corpo drones. So, yeah, Mike. Yeah, you could say Mike Stackpole got screwed a lot harder than I did. He's a much better author than I am. But to sit there and say, well, that means that you should shut up and go away. Well, Mike didn't. Mike stood up for his rights. Mike went and talked with their lawyers and sat down with the accountants, and they hashed something out. That's how you're supposed to do it when you're an adult. Sit down, shut up. Little author is not an argument. And I'm sorry, but I'm the kind of guy that if you slap me, I'll punch you. I won't throw the first punch, but I'll throw the last, or you better put me down. So yeah, I mean, I've never been one for giving into the mob. Now, I've even seen people commission artwork of my persona being explosively dismembered. And then they get even angrier when I comment favorably on the quality of the artwork. Somebody actually had it done in classic Battletech style. Like, you can see the Roy's Pegasus class hover tank off to the side, and then he's just being, like, totally obliterated by an explosive shell with body parts flying in different directions. Like, damn, that's actually some pretty good mastery of anatomy. You've got that down pretty well there. And they made sure to leave enough of the head intact. So it's like, hey, you can also draw a unicorn head pretty well. That's some good work there. And you're using the Battletech style, and the line work on this is really good. And oh my god, it just pissed them the hell off. Now, so essentially I'm persona non grata in a fandom about a game where I'm a published author. Because apparently authors are meant to be disposable when it comes to challenging a corporation that owns but never even created anything for Battletech. Which is why, and here's the thing, I did not initially say Battletech has a unicorn in it. When I originally wrote this material, I basically presented it as a very ambiguous in-joke. What I actually wrote was that there were rumors that a high-ranking Eridani Light Horse officer had been seen appearing, with the appearance of being an anthropomorphic unicorn, resembling the unit patch of the 11th Recon Company. In fact, I don't even think I said anthropomorphic unicorn. I said that he has returned in what appears to be some sort of disguise resembling that patch. And the patch of the 11th Recon Company, well, it's Macomber's Unicorns. It is, in fact, the only unicorn-themed unit in the entirety of the Eridani Light Horse, all three regiments. And it is, in fact, the reason that I originally selected Roy Calbeck as my personal persona, because when I started cartooning back in the 90s, I did it for an amateur press association zine called the Dallas Brawl Update. And I had never drawn anything before. And somebody said, well, you don't have an excuse because we got a guy in here who draws stick figures. He's got a stick figure as the main character. It's like, okay, most of these people draw anthropomorphic characters. I kind of like that. Let me go, and I'm at the time, I was really into Battletech. I was really into the Eridani Light Horse. So I figured, why not take an otherwise undeveloped character from that, Roy Calbeck, who was a sergeant, piloting a galleon-class tank with the 11th Recon Company of the 71st Light Horse, Macomber's Unicorns. I was like, oh, Macomber, That's actually a name that is related distantly to my own real world last name. And Unicorn, they're the only Unicorn outfit. I guess that slots in okay. So here's Sergeant Roy Calbeck, and I start drawing him. I created a backstory where he basically falls out of the Battletech universe into an interdimensional nexus. He winds up being transmogrified from a human into an anthropomorphic unicorn. And so basically, when I finally get the clearance from WizKids, no less, to go ahead and do a full final version of the Aerodynamic Light Horse history, I go ahead and put him in there, basically finishing his story arc. Because I had been role-playing with this character in cartoons and comics and all kinds of other things for years beforehand. So why the hell not? I'll just make it ambiguous as hell. Well, when all these people started giving me shit, I decided to stop being ambiguous. What I like to call pulling a J.K. Rowling. There's an actual writing trope called Word of God. And it is when an author of something clarifies something that they had previously left ambiguous in a published work. The reason I call it pulling a J.K. Rowling is that this is how Dumbledore became gay. Rowling had never said in any of her books to that point that Dumbledore was gay. But a lot of her fans, especially on social media, were like, make Dumbledore gay. Please let Dumbledore be gay. Gay, 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 gay. Make him gay. It would be so great if Dumbledore was gay. And she's like, okay, he's gay. To that point, she had still never published a work stating this. I believe her later works went ahead and included that, but from that point forward, the point of her declaration, Dumbledore was gay. Nobody is going to come out and say Dumbledore was only gay when the first novel having him officially gay came out, because they would be immediately attacked by all these J.K. Rowling fans, all these Harry Potter fans who really want Dumbledore to be gay. It's like, no, you're erasing his identity prior to this publication. And Rowling said, okay, well, Calbeck said. I said, Roy Calbeck is actually this anthropomorphic unicorn. He wasn't when he got dropped out of the Battletech universe. He went through all these adventures in other universes, and he came back, and he's still what he changed into when he was in these other universes. He is an anthropomorphic unicorn. Battletech has a unicorn in it. Suck it up, haters. And boy, did that set them off. So, Battletech has a unicorn in it. God have mercy on our souls. Yeah, Eldritch, if you die, die looking good, right? Now, of course, I'm not going to sit here and say that artwork is canon. I'm sorry, that's a fan art. That's fan art of a canon character that they didn't like. But it's good art. I'm going to give them credit where it's due. So, yeah, I mean, bottom line, I went to court, I fought these people, I won recognition of my copyrights and contributions, including Roy Calbeck. He is a goddamn unicorn. Battletech is stuck with him. Now, let's also clarify something in that regard regarding how Battletech has always handled its canon, right? The original, I got to go all the way back to the original stuff that was published, like the original Mercenaries Handbook. And you could say, well, there's been a new Mercenaries Handbook published, so the old one is no longer relevant. Nope. That's not how Battletech's canon has ever been handled. You can also say the same, incidentally, about the house manuals, the house source books. The original house source books, published all the way back in the 80s, well, they've done new house source books, so all that other stuff is, no, it's still canon. But, yes, I am old. I am old. I've been involved in Battletech, at least originally as a fan, but going all the way back to the 80s. I like to tell people, and this is the absolute truth, I watched the first moon landing live on television. That's how old I am. How much older than that, I'm not going to necessarily say, because that's a bit of a joke. But it is also true. So, when it comes down to it, though, regarding Battletech canon, how it goes is that you have an initial publication of something. Say, here's some brand new content. Okay. Then you have a later publication that touches on the same content, but either adds new content or advances the timeline or changes old content, specifically overwriting. You see, overwriting is how it actually works. It's like a series of overlays. If you were to take the content from the original House source books and compare it to the new House source books, you would find that there's a lot of material that isn't covered in the new stuff at all. And that's because it would just be reprinting stuff from the old one. So the stuff that is still canon from the old stuff remains canon. Only things that change when there's a specific statement like, okay, instead of a watermelon exploding during an experiment by the NAIS involving Bonsai's Buckaroos, if I recall correctly. Or excuse me, Team Bonsai. Team Bonsai was involved in this experiment where a watermelon exploded at the New Avalon Institute of Science. Okay, it's now a cantaloupe. Because somebody changed it to be a cantaloupe in a more recent thing. In that case, it was always a cantaloupe. They're just correcting an error from the previous material, do you see? So it overwrites. But it only overwrites those specific things. Okay, Eldritch, you actually got it right. I was, in fact, a baby watching the original moon landing from inside my crib. I was like 18 months old at the time. Just barely old enough to have long-lasting memories, and I still remember the voice of Walter Cronkite. Is one of my earliest recollections of something that I saw and heard on TV. So there you go. You got the full story there now. So anyways, they removed my material from publication, but they've done that with other publications too. Like they no longer continue to publish the original House manuals, for example. But my stuff is still part of the property. So unless something specifically overwrites the character of, say, Roy Calbeck, or specifically says, here's what was going on with the Gunslinger program, and here was the top guy. Here was the top guy from the Gunslinger program during the Ronin Wars, and it was somebody other than Major Kyle Sessions, and he was piloting something other than a Wyvern battle mech. If they actually did that, that would be one thing, but they never have. So they've never overwritten my canon. They've just pretended it doesn't exist. Oh no, I may have the voice for it, but I am in my mid-50s. So yeah, and of course the funny thing is, if they ever wanted to officially erase Roy from the canon, they would have to admit, basically, they'd have to tacitly admit that he's already part of the canon. Which is one reason they've never touched him, I think. I mean, they never tell me. Nobody wants to talk to me about this. They know that's a live wire. You don't put your finger back in the light socket. I'm glad you found that was interesting and entertaining anyways. But that's essentially the story. Now, in practical terms, what could I do with it? Well, really nothing, because since I did not win the co-ownership claim, I don't have rights to the rest of Battletech, only to my original content. And since my original content is based on material I don't have rights to, it's basically a stub. It's a dead end I can do nothing with. If I did, they would have the right to sue me. Even if I were to, I mean, I can do things like take the character of Roy Calbeck and drop him into another universe and tell stories that have nothing to do with BattleTech. Perfectly fine. I can even say, yes, he's a member of the Aerodynamic Light Horse. Yes, he was with the 11th Recon. I can allude to his back history, but I cannot build off of the BattleTech property any further. No, actually, I lost next to nothing. The entire lawsuit against Topps, I mean, I said this previously in the silent version of this story, but Topps hired a New York Park Avenue law firm. And that's not a euphemism. They were actually headquartered on Park Avenue in New York. And they had a full team of lawyers. They had chief counsel, they had assistant counsel, they had all these other people. Yeah, I probably am. I probably am that old. Gary of Nerdrotic? Yeah, probably. I can remember when the news wasn't what. I'll tell you, I might not. the journalism has been screwed up for a very long time. Wasn't 99? Okay, yeah, I'll admit it wasn't 99% trash up until maybe around. I'll get into that a bit further, but what was I saying? The entire lawsuit cost me like $1,000, and the reason for that is I represented myself. I didn't hire lawyers. I couldn't afford lawyers. During the lawsuit, I lived below the poverty line. To be perfectly honest, I still do. I live on my military disability, and I've rearranged my life so that that's comfortable for me. So I have no particular reason to go back to work. So I'm pretty much semi-retired at this point. It's like I've got all my bills played. All my bills paid, plus a couple of $100 every month to play with. So I'm not exactly hurting here. But the entirety of the lawsuit, I didn't have to pay any filing fees. I didn't have to pay for a lawyer. All I had to pay was for the printing cost of the copies that I would make. Like I would type up my own motions. I would make the responses all right here on, well, the computer I had before this one. I would run them off on my printer. I would head down to the copy store. I'd make all the total number of copies that were required by the court. I would mail them off. That was my expense. Basically, nothing more than copies and mailing costs. So that came to less than $1,000 over the entirety of the lawsuit. I have no idea how much Topps spent trying to defend themselves against this. It went all the way to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, so they did. They had to face multiple courts dealing with it. And all they really had to do was say, "Can we cut you a contract to own your material?" Yeah, I would have sold them the rights in exchange for standard market rates at the time. If they'd been polite about it, if they'd been reasonable about it. But because they decided to pick a fight, I decided to kick their teeth in. Oh, here we go. Bogies in the wire. Bogies in the wire. Do 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 do. Now, who's this guy? First of all, let's go ahead and report. Spam malicious links. Bot account. Selling followers. Now, I should clarify, bot selling followers. Submit report. Close and ban. Bye-bye. That is the same outfit that pops up. I'm sure you guys have seen them before. They always use a totally randomized account. Apparently, they create new accounts out of nothing. I've had a couple of streams where like 3, 4, 5 sometimes of those bots pop up in the same stream. I don't care. It's skeet shooting. Let them waste their time. Yeah, Tops is just, yeah, Tops with 2 P's, by the way. I went from 8 to 2. Oh. I didn't even notice. No, you two guys are likely the only ones who are legitimately in here. I didn't see it at any time that it said 8 viewers, but that was probably bots. They can't plug their shit after all unless they're viewing. I'm just maybe a little surprised that we didn't see a bunch of others. But if they were all tied to the same account, then blam, yeah, there they go. I don't know. Maybe that would be one way that they try to avoid getting nuked. Like if you nuke them, you're hitting your own viewer count for a given stream. If you tolerate their existence, then you have an artificially inflated viewer count. I don't want that. That's garbage. If you can't be honest and honorable in your conduct, don't even bother. I mean, if I honestly only have 5 people who ever watch this channel, then that's fine. That's just the way it is. And I'll admit that I am no kind of marketer. I really don't know how that's all done. I'm not the kind of guy who knows how to make a really slick stream. As you can tell. I mean, we're still at like 3.5 gigs of however damn much this is. Since it's going for the full cache, it's probably going for the whole 31 meg download. Or 31 gig download. I was going, previously I was going to kill the stream because it's like, okay, I'll just tell this story. And by the time it's done, hopefully the downloading for Rogue Tech will be done. But I get the feeling, yeah, it may be an all-nighter here. You know what I'm probably going to do is clip out the garbage section from the front of this stream and just keep the story up to the end of the stream and then have that as a permanent clip. Because even though it's, yeah, it would be a hell of a long clip, but apparently that still saves it, at least on Twitch. That clearly wouldn't go over to YouTube. You come here for my personality. I have a personality? Yeah. Well, I mean, it would be nice having other people viewing, but I'm not going to run around chasing them. I find a lot of the techniques used just be artificial. Like I've had I've had a few times where I would be in chat with somebody else in another stream, and we hit it off, and they give me a shout out, and I've seen people like join up or follow from that, and that's cool. That's cool. Just basic networking, but schmoozing around, well, I'm glad you like the voice. For as long as I have it. Let me see if there's anything else to cover here. That was basically it. Unless there's something you guys want to talk about. If you've got any questions, just throw them out there. See if I can answer them. I guess this has become an Ask Me Anything. Okay, so nothing new over there. That's all covered. appreciate that, Eldridge. I really can't ask for anything more. When it comes to long-term gameplay, who actually sits there and watches the thing for the entire, 4, 6, 8 hours? I figure that's probably why short-term content does a lot better, because it's sort of episodic. Somebody's playing something like Cuphead, it's like, yeah, I'm doing X level and I'll be here for maybe an hour tops. I mean, it's done. But you can't really do that for... well, I shouldn't say you can't do that with Fallout. But the stuff that I have seen for Fallout like that, those are like clip shows. Like, somebody's like, here's an hour-long Fallout thing, and I'm showing like the best parts of this hour of gameplay condensed into like 10 minutes. Okay. Well, I think I'm going to go ahead and close out the stream then. And just try and get this friggin' thing updated. And at least I hope you guys were entertained today. That's a 2-hour stream of rant, and half of that was just microphone not working at all. You guys have a good one. I appreciate you dropping in. I'll just... Damn. Well, I'll just get this updated and everything, and I guess I'll probably be back tomorrow to actually play the game. You guys have a good one.